Hi, welcome back to my channel, Crystal Finds. Today I'll be doing what I like to call a vintage show and tell, which is kind of like a thrift haul with some history sprinkled in. And I just hope to share some of the information I've been able to find doing research on the items because I'm a researcher by profession and I'm really fascinated by object histories. So first up we have this milk glass lady planter. And I don't actually know much about it. I do know though that milk glass is a type of depression glass, which is glassware that was machine made and started in the 1930s during the Great Depression. So before then, glass was a extremely expensive commodity and was only affordable to the elite. But during the Great Depression, with the rise of industrialization, glassware started to be made by machines instead of people. And this made it much more affordable and mass-produced. So companies like Quaker Oats would actually include a piece of glassware when you would buy a food item from them from the grocery store. Suddenly, people who couldn't afford glass actually had pieces that they could collect in their homes. And from then on, companies like Jeanette Glass popularized collections like the Cherry Blossom collection, which is this beautiful pink-hued glassware that includes plates and bowls and decanters and perfume bottles, etc. But milk glass was a hugely popular style of depression glass, and this is what this is an example of. Nowadays, these are pretty collectible, though they don't fetch an expensive price. It's more, if you're into that sort of thing, then you can find them often at thrift stores or obviously on Etsy or eBay. This particular one goes for about $50 or $60 shipped. It is so beautiful and so cute, and I just really like it. So next up we have my collection of Polly Pockets. Polly Pockets were initially made by a British company called Bluebird, and they were eventually bought out by Mattel in 1998. Mattel we know from Barbie, etc. This pink shell one is called Nancy's Wedding Day, and it's from 1989, and it features a bride and a groom. What's cute about this is you can open the chapel doors and see a little crowd. They have this really cute shell shape, and I have 3 of the characters on there, and I have another one here in a turquoise color that's, I think, some sort of hotel or beach house scene because it has some water and the 2 little girls can go swimming. I used to play with these when I was a kid and kind of took them for granted the way the kids do, but now that I'm older, I really love this nostalgia item and have made it my mission to find as many as I can. So this is another one that I have. It's the 1993 summer beach house, and as you can see, it isn't shaped like a shell. It's actually a house, and you can just open it up, and it has 2 stories. In the bottom it's kitchen, a living room, and a little pond, and then at the top we have a bedroom, the closet. It's just really such a cute little piece. The design of these are just really fascinating because they have such intricate decor. So you would expect these to be kind of, you know, pretty basic, but they actually have just so much detail. But they could go for as high as $100 or as little as $30 or $40. I think with the aging of the millennial generation, we'll see probably a spike in prices on these, kind of in the same way that Pokemons have spiked in price, because we're getting to that age where we have nostalgia for the things we used to play with when we were kids. Next up we have my Nancy Drew, vintage Nancy Drew novels. And these have a really interesting publishing history because in the late 1950s, the Nancy Drew publishing rights were bought out by another publisher who made it their vendetta to make Nancy Drew less feminist in order to reflect the changing American views of women and their behavior. And so actually we published the first 34 in the collection to better suit the tastes of the time. So this one's The Secret of the Old Clock. I got The Clue of the Black Keys and Ghost of Blackwood Hall. I found these at an estate sale that was out in cottage country, about an hour and a half away from where I live. And the property was just really fascinating because it was frozen in the 1970s, but one section of the house that was pretty much overlooked by most of the buyers there was the library, and I of course went straight to it because I'm a literature fanatic and I just love books, and I love the smell of old books and the way they look. Even if I'm not a huge fan of the story, I just appreciate these artifacts from our past. And Nancy Drew is just a really cool collectible because she's one of the early feminist icons of, you know, the 1930s, and she really became a character that still people can relate to nowadays. There's like a whole science to how to determine what era they're from based on the cover, the end papers, the illustrations.
If 2 + 2 is 4, right? And 5 + 5 is 10, okay.
From what I understand, these are published between 1959 and 1961 because of the blue tweed, the cameo, and the specific style of end paper, which includes multiple images. These two would have been printed between 1962 and 1968, and I know this because the front covers are printed directly on the cardboard, and the back has Nancy looking out from behind a tree. So if you have vintage Nancy Drew books that you'd like to date, then I'd recommend this website. It has all the information you need from the earliest 1930s editions through to the 1940s and 50s, all the way to the 1980s. And it'll have all the distinguishing features that can help you figure out what date your editions are from. In total, I have 5 of these, and my goal is to eventually find them all, but we'll see what happens. It might take a couple years. I just want to find them in the wild, and that's kind of the motto for all of these. Is though I could buy them from resellers, I think the joy and the thrill of finding vintage or antique things on your own, just out in the world shopping, is just much more entertaining and much more thrilling. And this concludes the first in my vintage show and tell series. I hope you enjoyed it. I have plenty of other things to show you, so if you like this kind of content, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.